welcome to Saturday Morning Live, the show where you get to join the conversation.
Saturday Morning Live.
This is the show.
Cool.
So today's show topic is the most helpful Disney animated feature movie sidekicks. What is that? What is that? What is a sidekick, Josh?
Sidekick is like where, like you stand in one place and then like you move your body to the side and kick forward and in an up direction. That's
a very good definition of a sidekick.
Yeah.
Not the one I was looking for.
Oh.
What's a Disney sidekick? And don't say when they do that in a Disney movie.
Disney sidekicks are, a movie sidekick, I guess, in general, or a story sidekick would be like a secondary character that provides something to the story, whether it be comedic relief or maybe they're helpful, like this show.
So specifically, I would say that a sidekick character is actually... it's defined as a close associate or like an assistant to...
Why'd you even ask me?
Because I thought maybe you would know, because it's kind of obvious. But we're talking about the most helpful ones today. Not necessarily the best, not necessarily your favorite, not necessarily the cutest, because if you were going to say the cutest, I would have some different things to say about that.
Yeah.
But just real quick, I want to say hello to a couple people in the chat. Skylar's here, Alexis, Raquel, Captain Akron, Peter Carrero, Dano, Paula, Lori. Lots of familiar faces here, or I guess names here today. Feel free to chat amongst yourself. We're going to kind of go right into it, and we're going to riff off each other a little bit here. But feel free to chat in the chat. Yeah.
Chat in the chat.
So, Josh, is there anything you want to say before I go any further?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I was kind of thinking about today's show, and I was like, wow, I'm really smart because I did this Pixar formula video, which was a reaction to Dale's original Pixar formula video, but mine was about change specifically, right? And I divided these movies into 3 types of categories. You have the individualistic change, you have the community changing, and you have change on a global scale. And I was like, you know what, just for the heck of it, I'm gonna try to kind of divide these Disney sidekicks into these types of movies. So it's we're not talking about Pixar, and we're not talking about change necessarily, though. Sidekicks do help the protagonist to change.
They typically don't change, right?
Right. Yeah. They kind of and if they do, it's very minor. It's very natural. But I thought maybe it would be interesting to look at those types of stories, because you have all these different stories across Disney animated film. Sure. I think you have more stories of the individual rather than a global scale. But I think it'd be interesting to see what types of sidekicks are in these types of movies and see maybe there's some sort of connection there. So I'm getting roasted on how much I'm chatting right now, I think.
No, you're not.
So I'm okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
But I was gonna use that as a segue into actually starting the show.
Cool.
So Josh, why don't you just jump right into it and give me what one of your most helpful Disney sidekicks?
Sure. I'm gonna go super.
This is such an if anyone needs a cheat sheet, there's some Pixar, so yeah, but
it's not a great cheat sheet. Anyways, so I'm gonna go real hipster on my first one here, and say it's Timothy Mouse from Dumbo. Without Timothy Mouse, Dumbo would not have found the bravery that he did. By the end of the movie, he needs, Timothy introduces the magic feather. He needs the magic feather, even though it's a placebo effect. He needs that person to give him that kind of leverage.
Yeah.
And able to make the leap he does and kind of see the growth of Dumbo. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say, without Timothy Mouse, that story would not be the same. And he is a very helpful character.
So we have Timothy, and I would say, like, Dumbo is a very, like, individual story, right? Like, it's a story about this individual. And it's a story about...
and Timothy really only helps one character.
Yeah, and it's... The whole thing that he does is teach Dumbo to believe in himself, right? That's how important is it? How many times have you been in your life where you were trying something and you didn't believe in yourself, and then the second someone came along and said, "No, you can do this," you were like, "I can do this."
And Rochelle brings up a good point in the chat that Jiminy Cricket will go hand in hand with that. We actually put together like a little promo for the show this week, and I mentioned Jiminy Cricket. I didn't mention him in this show just because we mentioned him in the promo, but yeah, Jiminy Cricket would go definitely hand in hand with that.
And I'm just going to mention here, I just started taking notes because I think this would be an interesting way to kind of like to keep track of like what we're saying here, because I think we're going to all make a lot of really good points, and I kind of want to try to connect them together. So I would say Timothy and Jiminy Cricket are great examples for this like individualistic protagonist, right?
Sure.
The story. And another character that I would say helps the individual in particular would be characters would be Timon and Pumba. That's my personal, I think Pumbaa is one of my favorite Disney animated characters.
Yeah, you love some Pumbaa.
Yeah, because he's squishy and he's sweet and he's cute. But he also helps our protagonist. What I think is interesting with The Lion King is that this starts out as a very like individualistic story.
Okay.
Right? It's about Simba and about his personal journey. And like Timon and Pumbaa help him through that, right? Mm-hmm. So they kind of take on this like very fatherly or just parental role in his life. But then the difference with this movie and something like Dumbo is that Simba grows up in the movie. Sure. So they don't need to be parents anymore. So now they actually continue to help Simba into this role of like being the king, right?
Yeah.
And so it's actually I feel like this movie actually becomes like this idea of like not only can they take on this role of like helping the individual, but they can take on this role of like helping the community coming together to kind of be leaders in the community and like really, you know, take accountability.
Yeah, and I think they're reluctant to it, but they still take that role.
Yeah.
I would even say, so mine kind of lines up with this, right? And I chose Lumiere. Lumiere is somebody who helps an individual. His goal is to service his master, who's the beast. But in doing so, he's also helping an entire community of people who have been servants and loyal. And like we see all of these different pieces of furniture that at the end of the movie turn back into. So it helps a whole bunch of people, even though he initially is only trying to help a singular person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really interesting because Lumiere isn't there to help Belle, right? Like that's never really the story like we'd think it is because Belle's pretty much the main character. I mean, it's called Beauty and the Beast, but Lumiere is never really helping Belle. There's never a point. I mean, he feeds her, which helps, right. Which does help her, but that's not why he's feeding her. He's feeding her because he's like, this is the girl who can break this spell.
That was very something. Daniel also brought up earlier in the chat that the magic carpet from Aladdin is a great side character, and I feel like that's the same thing where he's trying to help an individual, Aladdin, which really in turn helps a community. Agrabah is only better when Jafar is not in charge.
That's a very true, and well, so I think that's a great point. I don't know. I would say like there has to be some sort of motivation in the character to help the community, though.
The side character?
The sidekick, yeah. I think like if we're going to be talking about like whether they fit into like an individual, community, or global type of like contribution, I think we have to look at their motivation, because I don't think that like, I think Flying Carpet is a great sidekick, but I still think it only fits into the individual story or the individual's journey, because that's the Carpet's motivation. Carpet doesn't care about Agrabah. Carpet cares about Genie and Aladdin, and then eventually Jasmine and Abu and all that. But let's move on to
your other one.
My next one, and I actually picked another individual type of
you're pretty
motivated.
Individualistic.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of Disney animation has more of that, or I think like Pixar and maybe live action film, I think they go more into that like community and global scale of trying to make an impact.
Yeah,
I
Disney
think
animation kind of stays small.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something about like drawing a character that allows you to kind of like focus in on like a very personal story, right? Like you can tell a story that you wouldn't normally be able to tell.
Right. Yeah. And by all means, leave your thoughts on what characters you think would fit any of these situations.
I think Sebastian, Captain Akron says Sebastian. I think that's a great example.
Like Community?
Of I mean, because he's kind of has this job to take care of, like he's the advisor, right? He's like, isn't that kind of weird? Like there's just like this crab that's like super specialized in like advising royal, like. I
mean, it's also weird that he's the only Jamaican in presumably a Caribbean area. So I mean, take that for what it's worth, like. But yeah, like leave your thoughts, leave like what people that you want to fit into this. If you like any of the things we've already said, like give it a thumbs up. Because we have worked really hard on putting this together.
So my next one. So in the chat. Okay, never mind.
No, go say your thing. I can leave it up.
In the chat, is it Nui Moni?
Sure.
Says, don't forget Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather from Sleeping Beauty.
Community.
No, individual.
Oh.
But I think that's a great way to say, I think a lot of the princess movies have deal with the individual. And another character that helps with the princess character is one that I chose. And those are just like the mice from Cinderella in general. So the reason I like the mice is because they are sort of this hope for Cinderella when all hope is lost, right? Like anyone else in that situation would be like, it's over for me. Like my situation is unfortunate. I'm a victim. Right. And because I am a victim, I cannot improve my situation. But the dormice, are they dormice? I keep saying thinking dormouse because there's
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Okay. So, but are they Isn't a dormouse like a breed of mouse?
Possibly.
Anyway, so they like there's just like the scene where they're just like they're so frustrated for Cinderella. Like they're so frustrated they sing a song about it, and they're just like, you know what, like she does so much. Even though we can't do much for her, let's try to show her at least she's appreciated in our eyes, because she helps them, and they want to show that back to her. And like no one's ever really shown her that except for her father, who has been dead for a while. And like I just think like having somebody, and I think that's like that same idea as, Timothy or Jiminy Cricket. It's the idea of hope.
Yeah.
So you have the idea of hope, but you also have characters like Timon and Pumba. Okay, so you have like hope in the individualistic. You have somebody who's going to kind of give our protagonists something that they were lacking.
Like
right?
a dress.
Like a dress.
Or
hope.
like Alexa says, the fairy godmother gives her, like this sense of bringing her to the ball when she felt like she lost all hope.
I'm smiling because when you just said that name, which I am not going to repeat, I heard a little bloop bloop. We need to remember to unplug our Echo Dot before we record on Saturdays.
Oh yeah.
Because the name of the Echo Dot. So yeah, I think that's interesting. Like the individual sidekick kind of gives our main character something that they're lacking.
Right.
Whereas when you get into like a character that is more for like the community, or that actually helps on a community scale, which I wrote down some examples here, and I think I'd like to mention some of the examples because we haven't talked a lot about that.
Sure.
Little John.
Oh yeah.
From Robin Hood.
Yeah.
You have Roquefort from the Aristocats. Who's the mouse? I'm loving mice.
You love
mice.
I mean, I said Timothy, so.
I put Piglet in here, but I think like maybe any of the supporting Winnie the Pooh.
I'll say Owl out of anybody there.
Owl,
for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a better. Well, Owl's tricky because I think you assume he's wise when he was a little cuckoo, so he's a little.
Owls are always a little cuckoo.
Yeah. Okay.
Owls are tricky.
Is it because they're like cuckoo? How do owls sound? Who?
They don't say your impressions will make the show, really.
So you have these characters that almost connect with people on a level. So like you have the individual stories with those sidekicks, and they connect with the individual protagonist. But then you have these characters that are also on this community scale of helping, and they're connecting with something bigger than not only themselves and like this character they've connected with, which you could kind of consider themselves, but now they've like almost sacrificed themselves for this bigger cause. They've given up, they've reorganized all of their priorities in life,
right,
to help the community.
To help the bigger thing, yeah.
And one theme we haven't talked about yet is like is the global impact. So why don't you give me like an example of a character that you think kind of has a global impact?
Somebody brought it up earlier. I forget who said it, but
let us know in the chat.
But Baymax is a character. First of all, okay, so it's two things here, right? Like Tadashi created him to be a healthcare unit, and if Baymax was used the way that he was intended to be used, global change automatically. If he was, put into every hospital, every person's home, whatever the case may be. But then his like superhero side is also something that is huge, because he's literally saving the planet, and in that way, I think he's kind of a big global character.
I think another good example of the global impact in a movie would be Mulan. And I think Mushu, you obviously have Cricky too in here, right? Is that his name? Cricky?
Yep, Cricky.
Does he really do much?
No, he's very much like, he's
cute.
the cockroach and Wall-E. He's just like a bug to be a bug.
But Mushu kind of has this like, he literally has a higher calling.
Yeah.
So he's helping kind of like, he has like mystical powers, but he also just has this like complete selflessness. But I think all of these like characters that we've kind of laid out here, all these sidekick characters, they've all contributed in different ways. And like, I don't know if you can say any one is more important than another, honestly. Like, I think we're saying who's the most helpful. I don't know if you can say that. Maybe you could say the most helpful from each category, but I think the thing that's important about sidekick characters is this theme of like selflessness. Right?
Yes.
They're always sacrificing something in themselves.
Even if like Timon and Pumba are like kind of reluctant to do so, but they
have to. Like, if they could have left Simba to fend for himself, and their life would have been so much easier. But instead, they took on this like burden because it was the right thing to do. It's like sidekick characters always see something in our protagonist, I think, and I think like it's important that we're kind of specifying we're talking about heroes or protagonist sidekicks, because like there's also sidekicks for like minions for the villains too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you have
Iago.
Yeah, you have Iago. You have
Pain and Panic.
Pain and Panic. You have Flotsam and Jetsam.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an interesting note too. Maybe the villain sidekicks is a whole other show.
Sure.
But I have a question for you, Josh.
Sure.
What would Jeff Goldblum say?
Is the most helpful.
Is the most helpful Disney sidekick.
Man. So I would say Jeff Goldblum.
He's going to join us right now.
Jeff Goldblum's here. So he would say, by the way, Goldbluming is our show that's going on every... Jeff Goldblum, good Lord. Goldbluming is going on every Friday on the podcast feed right now. Jay, who's in the chat, is also here. But Goldblum might say that one of the best is actually all the dwarves, all of the 7 dwarves. They all have different names, like Sleepy, and he's Sleepy, and Dopey is a little dopey, and so on. And he would kind of say, like, they all have their different special powers, but Snow White couldn't live, and so they go hi ho, and it's and so it's special powers, and not special powers, but they have special abilities. All of them, they all have different names and abilities, and so they would in turn give you and they sing their songs, and then they save the girl at the end, and the prince comes and they kiss, and so they save her. So
good one. And you know what, I'm gonna give Jay, who's the Story Geeks in the comments right now, an assignment.
Oh no.
I want you to go on Twitter with #Goldblooming. Give us your answer and promote the show a little bit. Because Goldblooming is our current Friday podcast on Network 1901 right now. Yep. So Jay is from the Story Geeks podcast, but he's basically collaborating with Josh on Network 1901 podcast. So you can me. So you listen on there, but you're also going to want to go and listen to his podcast, because they're actually coming out with a Goldblum themed episode as well that Josh is on.
Yep. Next week.
Yeah, so check that out. Link in the description below. I also want to give Dale an assignment, but I'm not giving it to him right now. You're going to give it to him, because right after this, Josh and Dale are going to record the DCC.
For Monday.
Yep. For Monday.
Yep.
So Monday's show, you're going to hear, if Josh remembers to ask Dale, what he thinks the most helpful Disney animated feature film sidekick is for a protagonist. I want to hear what his answer is. And if you want to hear what his answer is, you can actually come back here on Monday. Mm-hmm. We post the video for the DCC podcast here. Or you can actually go to to our podcast feed and listen to it on there. So it's whatever way you like to consume your content. But I am going to just kind of move on here and ask you, Josh, why did we do this show topic this week?
We did the show topic this week because it was, I believe, Alexis said it. And I don't want to say it loud because our Echo Dot will hear us, and then it's going to say things. Also, this week we asked, so in the last show, Alexa said things during the show, and so afterwards we asked her what her favorite Disney souvenir was, and she actually answered. So feel free to go to your, if you have an Echo Dot or something, go to it and be like, Alexa, what's the most helpful sidekick character?
Can I do it right now?
No, don't do it.
But I want to know what it says.
But I want okay. So I just want to say it Alexis and Alexas. And Dano, I think, gave us this one. But if you want to suggest any topics for any future Saturday morning live shows, you can. Or if you want to suggest anything, I did a video this week about why Disney should purchase Capcom. That was suggested to me by Angel, who's another viewer of the channel. Johnny just joined the chat. He just found us and subscribed to the channel this week. Thank you so much, and welcome. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining in early. If you're on the West Coast, I know it's early. 9 a.m. on a Saturday is hard sometimes.
Yeah. The nice thing is Johnny in the chat. Everybody is like so nice and like so like everyone likes to participate. So just like jump right in. Oh, and Stoochie's here. So if you join us every week, you're gonna see the same group of people in the chat. So if you wanna like get in on the Network 1901 like fan community,
this is a good day to do it.
I think like the chat, like the live chat, is a great place to kind of start and introduce yourself. We do a lot of stuff with our listeners, meetups. We're gonna do something for Dapper Day. We're not sure what yet. But we just made the announcement last week that we have a booth there. So it might be something that has to do with finding us at our booth. We'll see. But we try to just like get our community involved in a lot of different ways, because it's not just about us. Yeah. It's not just about what we think. We're just the hosts.
Do you want to just ask Alexa?
Yeah, okay. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it. So, but we're going to try.
Hopefully.
Alexa. No, it doesn't do anything.
Hey Alexa. Who's the best Disney sidekick? Worst sidekick ever.
We'll set it up. We'll set it up here next time, and we'll ask it. We'll ask it on next show.
Sure.
So right now, I want everyone in the chat, whatever you guys want to hear on the next show, say it in the chat right now. We're gonna start taking our listener suggestions now instead of at the end of the show like we normally do. And again, like this show's suggestion was actually something that was taken like a few weeks ago. This wasn't like taken from our last show.
Yeah, we kind of piled on some
stuff. Yeah, so feel free, even if you think like we're not going to do it next week, or maybe you keep saying your idea and we haven't done it yet.
We'll do it.
I'm writing down everybody's ideas and keeping track of them.
And if you can't
so we'll eventually get to it.
If you can't think of anything now, you can leave it in the comments when this goes up and post, because this will still, even though it's live now, it'll be up forever on the YouTubes.
So Alexa says, I kind of started on your name because I was like, what am I saying? The best villain. Because we had done a show that was like evil, like who, like the most, or if you're evil or if you're just, a villain. And Brittany said she's gonna ask her Alexa. So, Dale just came on. Join us on the DCC. We love comments on that show too. So the DCC, they don't go live. But the great thing is it's on YouTube, so you can just leave the comments in the YouTube video, which you can also do on this video if you're not joining us live. But keep the suggestions coming. I'm writing them down. I'm going to go back through the chat, and I'm going to write them all down. And I'll give you credit if you give us the idea that we used for the show.
Right.
But right now we're going to move on to the Q&A section of our show, which is usually when we really turn to the chat to see what you guys have to say. We can continue the conversation of the show, or we can answer any questions that you guys might have, or just, talk about what you guys want to talk about. So now is a great time to ask us any questions that you may have. We're actually getting a lot of great suggestions here. Best Disney Vacation. We have anti-heroes. I like anti-heroes, especially if we are going into, that might be like a good Marvel specific show.
True.
Live action. That actually the live action video, I guess, or show, whatever, might actually be a great one to do whenever like Mary Poppins comes out. like we'll like try to like line it up with the release of Mary Poppins.
True.
Disney or Brittany, I was gonna say Disney Freak, but it's Brittany, says, where did you get that shelf? This shelf. Josh, where did you get this shelf?
That's not Brittany.
Oh, that's Phoebe. Phoebe is Disney Freak. No. Who's Disney Freak?
Ask who's Disney Freak.
I thought Disney Freak was Brittany.
No. You're just throwing out names randomly.
What's Brittany's name in the chat then? But what, Josh, where did you get this shelf?
We actually made this shelf ourselves, and then all the stuff that's on it we've kind of collected over time, but like this porg Angie made, and like this Mickey Mouse that's over here behind Angie is from the Disney Family Museum. You can see that on our best souvenirs video that we did, and there's a couple other ones. Disney Freak says, I'm not a girl, so
Overjoyed is Brittany. So then, but Disney Freak is... Who's Disney Freak? Disney Freak, tell me your name. So Dale said he may start doing the DCC live. Good luck.
Challenge on.
So I actually, why don't you guys, like, if you think, first of all,
Anthony.
Hi, Anthony. I don't know if I ever knew that your name was Anthony. Did I ever know that?
Probably not.
Well, now I do, and I will always remember that. And I feel like actually really bad that I thought it was. I don't know why I did that today.
You could just just give random names to everyone. That's fine.
Can I say I stayed up until 4 a.m.
She did.
Because I just have so much work to do because we're trying to prepare for Dapper Day this weekend. I went to bed at 4 a.m. and Josh came downstairs at 7 to wake me up. Yep. I fell asleep on the couch. I didn't even mean to fall asleep. I was pulling an all-nighter. I sat down on the couch just to like not be focusing on like a sewing machine for like 10 minutes, and then I woke up by Josh like coming downstairs at 7.
Jay said that the favorite Disney sidekick of Jeff Goldblum has been posted from his opinion on the Story Geeks Twitter feed, so follow them at the Story Geeks with the hashtag Goldblum.
I'm excited, and I also want to hear from you guys. I know, like, I'm telling you to ask us stuff, but I want to ask you guys. Anthony, your name is making me all hot and flustered now. But I want to ask you guys, why are you here? We started, like, putting out these commercials for whatever our next show is going to be. Did that bring you here? Are you a longtime listener? Dale is in the chat right now, and obviously we're talking about the DCC. Do you guys watch the DCC? Do you like this format where we're doing, like, a live show rather than, like, something that's edited in post? What do you prefer? How do you prefer to consume your content? The cool thing is that we have so much stuff going on Network 1901 that, like, there's kind of something for everybody, right? There's we have 3 videos going up every week, plus Saturday Morning Live on Saturday mornings.
Yep.
Every 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. We also have 3 podcasts going up. So including Gold Blooming on Fridays right now. We have so many. Our Friday show is always a rotating show. We have so many cool shows coming up. So you're going to want to subscribe to our podcast feed. Even if you're listening to the DCC on YouTube, you're still going to want to listen to our other podcasts, which are not on YouTube. And we post 3 weeks. So go over to whichever podcast provider you listen to and find Network 1901 on there. And also subscribe to our channel and like this video. Like this video right now. Don't even wait until we're done. If you...
Man, you don't even have something to go with it.
I was hoping it would happen as I was talking. Josh, why should people like this video?
Because
if you can do this.
Sure.
Like this video.
like this video if you enjoyed today's conversation, and if you have not yet,
or if you like this,
do subscribe.
I mean, if you can do this.
And also, so lately, there's been a lot of kind of things going around about like who's getting notified and who's not. Like, even if you're subscribed, you may not have us in your subscription box. YouTube's just kind of doing some weird things. They're actually prioritizing people getting stuff if you've clicked the bell that goes with the subscribe button. So if you really, really love our stuff, click the subscribe and then the bell button. Or if you've not clicked the bell button, do it now, and then you'll guarantee get all of our stuff, because they're prioritizing who gets what these days.
I noticed that. I know, like, we're kind of wrapping up the show right now, but stick around in the chat if you're in the chat right now, because Josh always sticks around like 5 to 10 minutes after we stop broadcasting to just chat with you guys, because obviously there's a lot going on and we don't get to like cover everything. But just like real quick, you saying that, like, I actually noticed that and didn't even realize that was happening, because I'm subscribed to like all kinds of different types of channels, and one of like my favorite YouTube channel topics is horror, like true crime and horror stories. And I think because I had subscribed to those people, like that was one of my first like YouTube interests. I had subscribed to those people such a long time ago. I'm noticing that like even though they're still posting videos like multiple times a week, but for some reason they're not really showing up in my feed or even in my sidebar. It's like the order is getting messed up, and I'm like, where the heck is, like, one of my favorite YouTubers is Rainbot Horror, and I'm like, where is she? Like, I cannot find her in my sidebar until I scroll up and down a few times. I'm subscribed to like 100 different channels, and it's like she was always in this like one spot, and now it's like I can never find her because of whatever. Like, I need to click the bell icon.
Yep, bell icon.
Okay, makes sense. And just, I'm gonna wrap up the show now, but just real quick, Jay had a good like button idea. It was like if you like Dale's hair. But there's rumors in the chat going on right now that it's a wig.
It might be a wig.
Dale, is it a wig? Is your hair a wig?
And Skylar, yes, and she does listen to creepypastas.
Oh, yeah. I listen to them on YouTube. I have a few people that I like in particular. I like Creeps McPasta. People get real creative. I also like to read creepypastas.
Anyways, that's it for the show this week. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Angie, any last words before we call it?
Yeah. I have 2 last words. Hurry back.
Keep on moving, people. See you next week.
Yeah. This is Saturday morning live outro song.